Well, let me ask you a question. Is HR out to get you? We've all heard people say that HR is not your friend. You're not going to get any help there. And HR just has a terrible reputation. And I understand that. But I want to make sure you understand why some of HR's actions may seem like they are out to get you. So I want to talk about five different topics. One, where HR came from. HR started as an administrative function for companies to handle the paperwork of running a business, onboarding employees, sharing information about policies and procedures, getting people set up with their benefits, and those kinds of things. And so their mandate, HR's mandate, is to protect the company and make sure that it's in compliance, which is part of the reason why it may seem that when you're dealing with HR with a problem that you're having, that they're more concerned about the company and the company's perspective than yours. Two, HR business partners and generalists generally are not trained to handle conflict. They generally don't have the alternative dispute resolution skills. They're generally not mediators. They're not ombuds people. They generally haven't taken negotiation training. And so for them, when you present with what sounds like an interpersonal problem and that they can't quite see the connection to the business, or there's not a policy or rule that directly points to them needing to assist you, then they're probably not going to because they don't like to be involved in conflict situations. The other reason is that HR does not make management policy, although it seems like it sometimes, like they're espousing the policy, they're explaining the policy, but they do not make management policy, which means, of course, that they cannot change management policy. So they can't help you if you need to get an exception to a rule. They can ask, but they can't make that decision for themselves and tell you, yes, go ahead and do that. So it may feel like they're being, you know, uncooperative at times. Uh, Another thing that you might have noticed in dealing with HR is if you're a Black person or a person of color, it may seem like HR really just sides with the dominant group. And that, my friend, is a result of affinity bias. Affinity bias is when you're in a particular group and you feel more comfortable with and prefer members of that same group. So if you don't look like your HR partner and your bully does, your HR partner, whether it's conscious or unconscious, may favor the person that looks more like her. And then the last bit is kind of a surprise. I learned this and I was surprised, and I think you might be too. Now, another reason that HR might not be so quick to be helpful to you in resolving a workplace dispute or a bullying situation is because of what I said initially, that their mandate is to protect the company. And sometimes companies compensate the HR person for how well they do at minimizing, eliminating, or reducing risks and conflicts. And bullying situations are risks. So they might be less than helpful for you because they're trying to, adhere to the mandate and make sure that they're lowering risk. So that might be why they're not actively jumping on your matter or helping you as much as you like or giving you the resources that you want. So all that to say that there's a reason why HR acts the way they act. Sometimes they can be helpful, sometimes they're not. It's better to go into the situation, one, learning your HR person. So contact your HR person before you need that person, right? And begin to establish a relationship because you want to know, how does this person think? What kind of information is relevant to them? Are they a people person or are they a data person? Because that way you're going to know how to approach. I need to come with data, or I need to build a connection before we can have a conversation. Ask them about different policies so you can get a sense of how they explain things and how well they know the policies. You shouldn't just assume that the HR person knows everything. I've worked with lots of HR people. Some have been great, some have been less than great. Some of them are really well versed on everything their company is doing. Some are a little bit behind the curve. So just because the HR person says we don't have that policy doesn't mean that you don't. You should check for yourself and look at, for other resources. So I would say trust but verify. Uh, Maybe paraphrase that a little bit. Trust, but also have your own resources and do your own looking around to make sure that there are tools and people that can help you because the HR person isn't your only resource. It's just one of the resources your company has to help you if they're having a problem with a coworker or a manager who is mistreating you.